Welcome back to the Ali Maz show, coming to you live from a bedroom in Long Island. Actually, it's on Long Island. Long Island. I'm here for only one more night. Cue applause. I want to paint a little picture here. I'm looking out on a really gorgeous street, and the people across the street from my in-laws have 11 cars, 11, three of which are Hummers. And I just don't know why there are so many cars, but this is what it is like on Long Island. What is happening with America? So today is July, probably when you're listening to this, the 17th, and I wanted to give a little bit of an update of what's going on. We leave tomorrow. Did you know that Canadians say tomorrow and Americans say tomorrow? Anyways, feel free to message me about that. But my little nephews here on Long Island always are making fun of me for saying tomorrow. But I'm over here speaking the King's English. I don't know about you. Anyways, you could probably feel in my tone that I might be a little over Long Island and looking for a little bit of refuge elsewhere that is not living with my in-laws. And if you're new to listening to my podcast, my husband and I left Los Angeles 6 months ago. We drove across the country, dumped our stuff here in New York, and began a journey to find the promised land in Mexico to open up a boutique hotel. And in the process of doing that, we've been traveling back and forth to Mexico quite a bit, among other places like Europe, to lead yoga retreat, and I have a lot more travel coming up. So we leave tomorrow to drive to Colorado, actually, to stay for the rest of the summer in a beautiful home that friends of ours happen to not be using. It is a prayer answered. We are going to go stay in Colorado in just a neutral space. And I don't know any of you that are married and have done stints with their in-laws before, but sometimes I'm careful what I'm saying here. Sometimes it's just challenging. It's challenging not to have your own space. It's challenging to be maybe in an area of the world that you are unfamiliar with. And so we're going to Colorado, to Boulder, to stay for the summer, and have a space that is maybe not as charged, that is neutral. And then from there, right away, we basically drop our bags and 10 days later go back to Mexico to sign the entity, our business entity in Mexico, which is then the business which purchases the land. And so we're very much moving forward. It's very exciting. And from there, I come back to Colorado, and then I go to Vancouver to lead Girlvana, which is my teen girl yoga retreat program, and then come back. And then we go to Asheville, North Carolina. I'm leading a breathwork training with my friend George. There's, I think, 4 spots available. We opened up a few more spots, and one just got swooped up. But there's 4 spots available for breathwork training in Asheville if you want to learn how to become an active transformational breathwork facilitator. And then I'm off to Panama for Feelvana, which is a YTT program led by my dear friend Ash Brodeur and I, and then the last Lady Vana of the year. So it's jam-packed basically from tomorrow all the way into November. And I am currently sitting on a suitcase, a big away case, and my laptop is propped up on an upside-down laundry bin. And this is what my life feels like. But I do feel better. I've been writing these newsletters on Substack that feel sort of like a cry for help. I don't know if any of you have been reading them, but people are like, "Are you good?" And the last one I wrote was was called "My Human is Heavy and My Spirit is Free." And what I mean by that is I was just really, really witnessing how friggin' heavy the human experience has been for me lately. And I don't know if anyone else felt this way, but over the Cancer new moon, which was 2 weekends ago, Cancer energy is just emotional, it's sensitive, and I feel like also PMSing, but really at this place where, if you listen to my last podcast, it was very similar. It was like, before I get my period, I turn into a wreck. And this was another example 1 month later. But just all things colliding at once, this Cancerian energy coming in. I had spent multiple days upstate New York with 15 of my members of my husband's family. We wore Team USA shirts for a picture. I'm Canadian if you're new here. Just not my vibe, just in general. I wouldn't even put a Canada shirt on, if you know what I'm saying. So that felt really just more fuel to the fire of feeling othered and feeling really alone, even though they're all wonderful people. I just felt like no one knows me. It's this experience, and if anyone's familiar with Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 4. This is a very 4 thing. We have this like deep yearning to belong, but we also have this like separateness of feeling like we're different. We're so different, and no one will ever understand me. So I was really feeling like all this, like I need to see a familiar face. I need to see someone that knows me. I need to talk to a gay person. Does anyone know that TikTok? I need to talk to a gay person. That's what I felt like. So many of my friends are gay people. And I just needed like laughter and vulgarity and realness and the ability to talk about things because, in certain circumstances, not allowed to talk about religion really or politics or even what we're up to in Mexico because it's maybe not met with the most support over here. So I was just sort of feeling like, well, what does anyone talk about? And really feeling the frustration of that. And so I went to the city. To see some friends. And has anyone seen this YouTube? It's like this man that dresses up as a woman as his Long Island mother. And it's like, he moved to the city and now he's gay. My son is gay. He moved to the city and now he's gay. Hey, my son is gay. Anyways, look it up. It's really, really funny. It's not fully what my mother-in-law sounds like, but kind of. Bill always thinks I do the Long Island accent poorly, but I think I'm nailing it. Anyway, so I went to the city, and I went to New York City, and saw George, who I'm leading a breathwork training with. He's been on the podcast. I think so many of you know who he is, and we just like were on a wellness journey. Tons of yoga. We went to let's call it wellness theater in a way. It's like a 60-person sauna and a sound bath, but like kind of just, the teachers are mic'd up and then you go into the cold plunge, and it was just like, it was really cool. It's called Othership. It's in New York, and I think there's one in Toronto. But it was full on. During the experience, I was like, I don't know, do I like this? I'm like, it's really intense. It almost felt like Temescal, if anyone's Temescal, which is like a Mexican sweat lodge, where you do 4 rounds in the total darkness, and it's very hot and it's very dark and it's very intense. It almost felt like Temescal, but 60 New Yorkers sitting in a sauna together. And then you do the cold plunge in the coldest water I have ever experienced. And when I got out of the cold plunge, I sat down and I had a Bufo reactivation. And if any of you listened to my podcast with Steve Rio a couple episodes back, we talk a lot about 5-MeO-DMT, which is a molecule that you smoke in ceremony. And it's beautiful. And it's from Bufo alvaris, which is a toad that secretes a venom. Anyways, if you haven't listened to that episode or know nothing about this, you're probably like, what are you talking about? But look it up. It's called Bufo. And I've done 2 ceremonies with Bufo. The last one I did was probably a year and a half ago. And in that podcast with Steve, I talk about how I am still integrating that experience. And interestingly enough, when I was on the Cancer full moon or new moon, I was saying to Bill, like, I think I need to do some more medicine. Like I'm I am depressed. I am having a hard time in general. And I was like, maybe I need to go sit with, a psychedelic or, and this is not party psychedelics. This is ceremonial psychedelics treated as medicine, treated as a deep way to communicate with yourself and God. So it's funny I said that. And then I did this sauna cold plunge and I got out of the cold plunge and I sat down and I closed my eyes to ground because it was so cold. And I went full fractals. Like I went full into this kind of psychedelic realm, this feeling of dissolving completely, which is what Bufo can feel like for some, for me, certainly. And you can, I think it's about 50% of people after Bufo can have reactivations. And I certainly did many times after, but I haven't had that sort of dissolving feeling in a very long time. And it's interesting because I said, oh, I want that. And then I got it. And it's a little scary because you do feel like a ego death is happening and I knew where I was, but I was like, everything just kind of, it's really hard to explain, but just sort of disappeared. And there I was in the wellness theater. I don't know why I keep calling that. It just felt like a production in a really beautiful way. It's not negative. It was really, really cool. And then I, kind of came to, and George and I sat after, and I was just like laughing like hysterically. It was really kind of wild. And then we did a few more yoga classes, and I started to feel like, okay, whoa, I'm going to be okay. And we sat beside each other to do a meditation. One of our teachers, Amy, has this 20-minute meditation we do a lot. And I kept kind of hearing this, my human is heavy, but my spirit is free. My spirit is free. And feeling that the separation in a sense that I'm not just this heavy human. I'm something beyond this human having this really heavy experience right now. And if I can make that distinction, then I do not have to over-identify with this experience of being human right now. And I can see that it's temporary and I can see that it's going to pass. And like I said in the newsletter, I've been gaslighting myself. It's such a fine line, right? Of like positivity and then gaslighting your own self. But it's going to pass and it's going to be okay and it's temporary and you're so lucky and you should be grateful and blah, 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 to just actually needing to feel what's here. And what I was craving and maybe what I couldn't give myself, because that's so often the case. I want to hear this from my husband or my mom or my friend, but maybe, not maybe, yes, needing to hear it from myself. Like, just, hey, I'm sorry, it sucks right now. And just being able to come into reality and come into acceptance of, hey, this sucks right now. And letting myself feel that without any sort of solution based thing. Because I think that's often where Bill goes, because a lot of men are wired this way. It's very masculine, sort of linear brained thing, is to find a solution, which can be so beautiful. This is why I love being in business with my husband, because he's finding those solutions. But in the emotional realm, I'm like, do not effing tell me one more time it's going to get better or whatever. It's like, no one when they're depressed wants to hear that. It's like no one when they're stressed needs to hear like calm down, or just like don't be depressed. It's like I would love that option, thank you, but I don't know. And you're talking to a girl who has all the tools in the world and she still can't figure it out. So within this meditation, I'm with a gay person in Manhattan, someone who knows me. And just I can cry and I can say my human is heavy. And then, drag my ass to yoga. Amazing yoga, by the way. God, New York has some of the best yoga teachers. I have deep, deep reverence for the yoga that goes down in New York City. I couldn't find it in LA. I'm certain there are amazing teachers, but it's like, depending on where you live, you probably don't want to drive 60 minutes across the city to go to a yoga class. But in New York, you can hop on a train and you can, be in the city, be in Brooklyn. It's the best. I love New York so much. New York City. Long Island, not as much, but I went to this woman, Nikki. She owns Kula Yoga in New York. And she's just a master and a master at sequencing and articulation of the practice, her hands-on adjustments. And I don't know how old Nikki is, but I think she's older than me. Um, and just, I kept feeling anytime she'd come near me, I'd just be like, please, please, lady, put your healing hands on me and bring your wisdom to my body, which she did multiple times. And I just felt like, wow, I'm been missing and craving being around really embodied women, because a lot of times it's just me and my husband, and we're just traveling or whatever. Um, and just this archetype of the way I see it is just like this tall spined, shoulders back, speaking from their womb space, eyes clear, like no sense of any self-doubt, or it's just confident and it's easy. And what I love about New Yorkers is there's a directness, it's a straightforwardness. It's not, you're not taking a class and the teacher's like, maybe if you want, and it's like, reach your arms forward, forehead to the mat, hips to your heels, and you're just like, tell me what to do. It felt so good. And I started to be like, oh wow, yoga is really good for us all. And it's so funny because I've been practicing for 20 years and I just forget. And if I make it to my mat, especially right now, I don't have a lot of space to practice. It's maybe in this room at my in-laws, and it's sometimes outside, but it's like a million degrees and humid. So it doesn't have to hit the same way as a masterful woman guiding me. And I did that a few times in different studios and spaces, maybe 4 or 5 times over 5 days. So every day. And I started to feel better and started to feel way more like myself. And I got to another friend's house, my friend Fuller, who his family owns the villa in Italy where we do retreats every year. And I came to drop something off that I had of his. And he was like, oh, babe, like I'm leaving till Wednesday. Why don't you just stay here? In his like ice cold, air conditioned, he's a Libra, gorgeous apartment, by myself, but which I haven't been by myself in a very long time. Maybe since I took that week in silence in April or whenever that was, but just alone, out of the hustle and bustle of the city, no one there. And aloneness is so important to me. I talked about this a lot actually after my time in silence. The word alone used to mean all one. And so when we spend time alone, we can come back into our oneness with ourselves. And that's what I did by ordering sushi and watching The Real Housewives of New York, which I don't have Peacock. So I was like, just sort of curious, especially about Jenna Lyons. She used to be my friend's boss at J. Crew, and I've always like admired her style. So it just felt so mindless. And even actually two of my favorite spiritual teachers have always said the same thing to me, like where TV can be really powerful, where you can kind of just let your brain kind of soften. And I think that's why we love to watch TV, but we all know that where it gets to be bingy and too much and escapey. But this didn't feel escapey for me. This felt like luxurious, where I can just sort of turn my brain off and watch these glamorous women, being in New York City, watching them in New York City. And I don't know, it felt like medicine to me. It was perfect. Oh, and then I went to sleep in a king size bed alone. Full starfish, beautiful sleep, got up, went to Skyting, another one of my favorite studios. This woman, Bonnie, taught this beautiful class, and I don't know, it just felt so good. So I feel like I have more of a handle on myself. I'm back in the midline of my body. Something my teacher Amy says a lot is like hug the midline of your body. And I used to practice and teach this style of yoga called Anusara, and we would say hug the midline. And what we meant by that was sort of drawing in, core in, hugging the thigh bones in, the upper arm bones in, this hugging in, like in a balance, say. But what Amy's talking about is more the central channel, central channel, what we call the Sushumna Nadi, which is this main central energy channel in the body from the root to the crown where energy moves. And this idea of living in the center of yourself. I just felt like I was not able to get there recently. And lo and behold, yoga, the very thing that got me into a spiritual practice, was the very thing that guided me back to where I needed to be. And it's so funny to me because it just feels so stupid, almost like, duh, it's like literally what you teach. But it gets away from all of us. I know that. And I have some semblance of a practice each and every day where I sit and I be with God, and I communicate and do a little movement, whether that's nature or walking or whatever, but just nothing was working until I went to the city. And a note on God for a moment, something I've been playing with in prayer lately. And to me, prayer is just a communication with something bigger. So, and the definition is always changing for me. And I went to Catholic school. My parents aren't very religious, but my grandparents were. And so, like praying to God was always like, dear God, thank you for my life. Forgive me for my sins. And it's not that type of prayer anymore. It's more like a conversation. And I've really done a lot of dismantling to take the masculine out of God. Like, I don't think God is Sky Daddy Man in the sky. But I've been playing around recently with just goddess, or praying and actually feeling like God is female, even though I feel that God is sort of no gender. But I think that when I'm still praying to God or talking to God, even the word God, even though I've pulled it away from the masculine, it still feels like, I don't know, still feels masculine-y. And sometimes that's great. And other times I don't want that kind of energy in my life. So I've been using goddess recently, which is feeling really good, or Sophia, which is another name for the feminine aspect of God. And I've been really digging that. There's something within my own communication with that feels more soothing. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about Nikki, this yoga teacher, placing her hands on me, just about how much I was craving female, older female embodied love and connection. And I went to my friend George's Breathwork class in the city. And it was really nice because he was teaching. Usually we co-teach together, but I was a student. And he brought a friend from Asheville who was really wonderful. Why is her name escaping me right now? Kristen. Her name is Kristen. And I don't know. She's older than me. I don't know. She's gorgeous, however old she is. And she was just sort of a female presence in the space walking around. And it was that same kind of energy of like, thank you for being an embodied woman near me. I need an example of this right now in my life. Thank you. And it even just the proximity felt healing to me, to have a woman like that near my body, grounding me. And then at the end of that practice, I go to very many different planes when I practice active breath work. I'm a very sensitive person who has had lots of journeying with plant medicine. And so I think breath work, even though the only medicine is the breath, is the pattern of the breath, it can take me very deep, very quickly. And I very much have altered states of consciousness experiences. Nothing new. I love it. It's so fun. It's why I don't practice breath work every day. I'm not someone who needs that. I think once or twice a month is perfect. And at the end, when you stop the active breathing pattern, I was able just to lie there, and I felt this really beautiful energy coming into the heart of Mother Mary. And again, not a religious gal. Don't really, know if everything in the Bible is fully true. But there's something about the Marys. Like, I love Mary Magdalene. I've talked about her a lot on my podcast, different podcasts. And Mother Mary, where it's just this deep, 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 loving energy coming in. And I thought, okay, like from the bufo to the women to all these things that I've been kind of asking for, they just came right in. And sometimes they're not in physical form. They come in as an energy. And I just sobbed my damn eyes out for, a good while in that class. And it was just so sweet. The healing that's there. That's why I love breath work. Oh my God. It's so powerful. So big squeeze, big cleanse, and then came back to Long Island, just pack my stuff up, which has been really wild. Basically, all I own at this point are the suitcase I'm sitting on, and another smaller, littler, whatever suitcase, and then two big plastic bag. Like think of like an IKEA size bag, but there's a zipper on the top. Um, that I bought for Burning Man last year, two of those bags. And that's it. That's all I own. Maybe I have a sprinkling of things at my parents' house in Vancouver, but that's it. So I did a lot of exchanging because I'm trying to figure out how to pack from basically now until the end of September. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, and many different climates. Ha ha ha. It's so not easy, but I got it done. And I woke up this morning, I did yoga. I've done yoga, I think, every single day in the past, 6 or 7 days, which feels so good. And I taught yoga too. And I also think part of where I get really sad and depressed is when I'm not in service. And the nature of my life right now is that I'm not teaching at the same cadence as I've normally been. And I think it actually makes me feel pretty sad to not be in service. And so finding ways to keep teaching, and maybe that is just offering a little bit more Zoom yoga. I'd love to hear from you what you would like, because I come into these deep retreat experiences, but then I take these big breaks away from teaching. So coming back in can feel so, maybe just what the doctor ordered. I don't know how to sit anymore in this weird setup. I don't know if we're going to post this one on YouTube with this backdrop, but you know how we do the little clips. I don't know how everyone feels about this lamp and this thing behind me, whatever. It's fine. I'm leaving here so soon. Okay, this might be a little bit of an unhinged podcast, but I do want to say thank you. I've been, my friend Mel Brittner, who's amazing, she built me this media kit. I feel so fancy. Just to, maybe start advertising with a podcast a little bit and reaching out to different brands. And I had asked Katie, who works for me with the podcast, about metrics. And it's been really cool to see, how many people have listened to the podcast. There's like over 35,000 people listening and over 21,000 downloads, which is really cool, meaning that's like people that actually subscribe to this podcast. And I feel really, really grateful and really, really thankful that you're here. And as I said in the last episode, I would really love to know what you like. If you like these solo episodes, I do plan to bring some more folks on once I get to Boulder. But to close up this unhinged situation, I wanted to share a few things that I'm really digging that are helping and supporting me. I did this last time and I got lots of people that were into it. And so I thought I would share. One is obviously yoga. Yes, news flash, yoga, incredible. We love yoga. Yoga really is so good for you. So go do yoga. And if you're in New York City, go to Nikki's class at Hula and just tell her I say hi. I mean, I don't know if she knows me. I talked to her a little bit after, and one of my friends goes to her class and has been a student of her for a while. But I'm such a freaking fangirl when it comes to yoga teachers that I really admire. And I just think it's like so amazing. And I always, after a class, want to say thank you, unless I'm like way too scared or starstruck. But I love going to class and being like, hi, my name is Maz, and I just like thought that was so beautiful. And then I'll like proceed to tell them all the reasons why I thought their class was really unique and special. And I guess maybe sometimes people do that to me too. I don't know. I kind of like black out when I teach, but I just love being a student, and I'm such a humble student. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of like a fangirl. I'm probably like the person that comes and they're like, oh, that Allie girl is back. She's so weird. Like when we finish class, like go into the storage room and drink your water so you don't have to talk to her. I feel like that might be something that people are into. Anyways, the next is facial massage, facial manipulation and massage. I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I haven't gotten Botox at all. this year as someone who used to do it sparingly, but still was doing it. And I am in an experiment with my own 30, almost 8-year-old face of what it means to age gracefully and naturally, because that's something I'm so committed to. And I think there was this dissonance that happened after I kind of moved through my eating disorder in my 20s. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm healed with that. I'm right with my body. I feel good. And I can really step up and be a mentor for young women around this. And then as I started to come into my 30s, Botox felt like this kind of shady secret thing that I was doing that I was unable to speak about because, if I was unhappy with the way my face looked, then who was I to be a guide to women? And so I was just starting to feel like a fraud. And do whatever you want out there in the world, my friends, when it comes to these things, not a judgment, but just something that I've personally been mulling over in my own life. It's like, why am I doing this? And what am I squeezing into my third eye center so that my face doesn't move? And why don't I want my face to move? And I think I said this before. It's like, oh, okay, to, uphold a certain standard. And who's that standard for? Men. Okay. I don't know. And I was saying this to Bill, like maybe if I was single at 38 and I wanted to have a kid and I was like trying to get out there and get a man, then maybe I would feel more pressure to look younger, which I even think that is BS. That is BS. But I just feel when I look at the vision of my life, I'm like this old, sun-drenched, wrinkly woman riding a horse everywhere. I don't know if I told you guys this in the last podcast, but that's like my number one vision, that I don't have a car. I just become a horse girl. I've never ridden a horse really that much, but that's the vision. Where am I going with this? Facial massage. Anyway, so I've just been watching TikTok and watching just women like do just sort of like lymph drainage in the face. It takes, 5-6 minutes. You can do gua sha, but she just sort of uses her hands. And I just am loving that time with myself and my eyes in the mirror and doing some affirmations and breathing and having it be a really healthy practice of reflection and being with my face and my skin in a way that's not like, I hate you. Why are you getting older? How can I be younger? Self-hate place, but a self-love place of I want to take care of myself. So the jury is still out if A, it works, and B, if I'm still doing this out of fear of aging, which I think there's certainly like a percentage that is present. But that is what I have been into with my face. I am back to drinking my herbs again. Dr. Stephanie Colantonio, who's on the podcast way back, who is my doctor. She's also an herbalist. I come kind of in phases with herbs, especially with travel, but I'm back drinking my nettle and my oat straw and my mullein leaf for my lungs. I just packed it all up to get ready to go to Colorado. So loving, loving, loving my herbs. Last week I told you about how much I'm loving my vitamin B, which is giving me energy, my magnesium, and I think that's kind of it. It's just yoga, facial manipulation, and herbs is really something that is making me feel good and prioritizing myself and prioritizing my connection to the goddess. And if that kind of sparks something for you, there is a book that I'm reading right now called The Left-Handed Path of Christ. And it's a book about Mary Magdalene and I think we can link it down in the show notes, but it's this beautiful book that talks about the life of Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, the coming from Egypt and being trained in sort of the ways of the Egyptian goddesses and sex magic. And it's really, really powerful. And also talking about witches and paganism. And anyways, it's really, really useful if you're looking to kind of get God out of the context of Sky Daddy and into, there's multiple paths of how we can reach Christ-like energy, which is an energy. It's not a person. Jesus was a guy that was Christ-like in nature. So loving anything to do with Mary Magdalene, and my sign for sort of feeling like I'm on the right path or connected to the feminine is a red rose, and that is what signifies Mary Magdalene. And so I've been really into the color red. If you can see this, my nails are red right now. I went and got a manicure and pedicure when I was in the city. And I was like, I want red nails. And I haven't painted my nails in a year. I painted them actually when I was in Europe for a wedding, and that was it. But when I got a manicure in New York, the woman was like, oh, do you ever get manicures? And I thought she was going to drag me. And I was like, oh, it's been a while. She's like, I can tell. She's like, your nails are so healthy. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for that, because I do feel really healthy. But red, the color of red on my nails, seeing red roses or seeing red flowers is a sign for me I'm on the right path. And then I learned recently that it's a power move to dress like your Venus sign, and my Venus sign is Scorpio. And so dressing a little bit more like rare and like in red or like sexier can kind of be like a power move for me. So, because I'm usually dressed as like a, I don't know, neutral linen, like old man or something, like a grandpa, someone's granddad, like a chic grandfather is usually what I am dressed as. So trying to play a little bit around with archetypes and just embodying them, because when I can't sort of embody my own self and really struggling with that, like, are there a few little things? And I have to say, painting my nails red when I was in a deep, dark bout of depression really did save the day. So the moral of the story is medicine comes in many forms. I got to wrap it up because I know I'm rambling, but it could be the Real Housewives of New York. It could be getting out of a wellness tea or cold plunge and having a full bufo toad venom reactivation, or it could be getting off of Long Island. All right, signing off. That's it for me this week. There is a full moon in Capricorn happening this week, and I'm teaching a full moon ceremony on Saturday morning. If you're interested, it's a part of my summer series, which you can still be a part of. Or I'm open to drop-ins. If you just want to do a one-off, feel free to message me over the gram, and we can get you in there and work with the full moon in Capricorn, which is the second full moon in Capricorn that we've had. The last full moon was in Capricorn, and the energy has something around resolution of like, back in the last full moon, we didn't know the answer, and now we do. And it's actually kind of funny because I feel like we're leaving Long Island. A lot of my questions were like, how much longer do we have to stay? And then my other question was like, how is this all going to go down with the purchase of the land in Mexico? And I think that we're having some resolution with that as well. So hopefully when I hop back on the podcast, I'll have more exciting things to share. But as always, thank you for listening. I love you. I hope that this podcast is able to offer you just some realness on wellness takes. Love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.